Welcome to the Pod in Your Basement podcast, featuring Ben DeLessio and Joe Garza. They're alive, they're hungry, and they're opinionated.
All right, this is the spooktacular inaugural episode of what is it called? The Pod People and the Attack of the Pod People or something, or
that's it.
Invasion of the Potty Horror, or
the Potty Snatchers.
Yeah.
No. This is a podcast in your basement.
Just pod, no cast.
That's right. Wait, no, it is the podcast in your basement.
Really? Because I don't think that was in the images I sent you.
Yeah, the pod in your basement. You're right. All right, good start. This is the pod in your basement.
Yeah.
It's so Joe and I. If somehow this is your first episode with like the two of us,
yeah.
I don't know how you got here. At least if you're listening to this, probably anytime close to August 7th, 2025.
Yeah.
Because we had a podcast for 4 years, actually.
Yep.
And we did a lot of horror on that podcast. It was probably one of the most constant topics, themes, whatever. But we decided to kind of rebrand and do a horror-only podcast, or much more horror-focused. What shape that's going to take, we're still not exactly sure. Definitely a lot of movies, but we also we talk books a lot, other sorts of media, whatever it is. But we used to do horror in July on the last show. It's called the Reckless Musecast. We would do Horror Fest in October, so I'm sure we'll still be doing those things, but then just more consistent with the horror theme.
And I think also too, we're definitely going to be on the lookout for more obscure horror stuff, some lesser known things. So that will definitely be, we're in your basement, so we're going to be going through, we're going to be digging through the
pop out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you don't have a basement, and you live like in an apartment or something, we're the pod in the people below in your apartment
in the HOA office.
Exactly. Yeah.
You guys even have basements in California? Isn't that like a thing?
Because that was in that movie.
That was in
Zodiac. Yeah, and I was shocked when I watched that. I was like, really? Like, we don't have, because at least I live in two houses that had basements that had.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is that as you grew up in? Did that have a basement?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So,
but I don't know. Maybe
talking about, and that was even like your area of California.
Yeah, it's in the Bay Area, so I don't really know where that came from.
You don't live in your current house though.
Oh, the current house? No, there's no basement here. So we could also be the pod if you happen to live in part of California that doesn't have basements. We're the pod in your crawl space or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, write us. Contact the pod and let us know if you have a basement.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll show up there. Just kind of moil about.
Yeah. Feed us, and we'll give you our opinions in return.
Yeah.
So for this first episode, Ben, this is an article that you sent me, and I thought it would be a good topic for our inaugural episode, because at the Reckless Musecast we talked quite a bit about the struggles of Hollywood, and how a lot of productions are moving out of LA because of how expensive it is, and how there've been a lot of expensive flops, and how people aren't going to theaters anymore, especially since post COVID. But there's this article in Reuters. It's called "Studios Bet on Horror Movies to Reanimate Cinemas." And it was actually talking quite a bit about how horror seems to be consistently popular, but also on a smaller scale, because horror movies typically don't cost nearly as much as superhero movies.
Which is something we've been talking about for, during the whole run of our last podcast, was that they make a ton of money off, not all of them, of course, but
right.
they have the ability to make a lot of money. They're usually significantly cheaper to make. It's one of those genres that is much more story oriented instead of actor oriented. So you can hire, to be honest, it's just like a cost. This is like call. You can hire cheaper actors, no-name actors, because people are there much more for the scares than to see so-and-so wear a cape. And I think it's just one of those, what we've talked about, it's just one of those emotions that it's kind of like spicy food. Like, it might hurt a little, but people keep coming back for it. It's like that same concept. It's fun. It's fun to be scared. I'm don't get me wrong. I know people who like will not watch any horror.
Sure.
None of it. And those, that's fine. It's just like there are people who like cannot eat spicy food at all.
Right.
This isn't everyone, but a lot of people really enjoy the feeling that it evokes to be scared. And I think in a society where we've become so inured to so many things, like to still feel, I mean, I don't mean to be too bleak here, but to still feel something from a work of art, so to speak, is like, that's something that people gravitate towards. And I think a lot of other like romances, rom-coms, a lot of comedies aren't very good anymore. I think there's a little bit of a comeback with those.
Sure.
But and then dramas are very hit or miss. Of course, they're like the big appeal still, obviously, and outside of just like action. Like horror is this weird, it's always kind of been a marginalized category. It's very much looked down upon because it's not considered high art. And I think a lot of that, because I think when people hear horror, they still automatically go to splatter, slasher, which is a huge part of the genre, but it's not the only part. And what we've also talked about, there has been this turn, and I mean, this is the last 10 years now or so, to what has been dubbed like highbrow horror. So that, think like Ari Aster, think Hereditary, Midsummer, The Witch,
Robert Eggers, like Nosferatu, and The Witch, or The Witch, stuff like that,
which are great. Which are great too. Like, I love how it's kind of becoming this, I think a good term would be a more fleshed out category. It's not just, and again, no disrespect to Halloween or Friday the 13th. Like, those are great. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of Friday the 13th, but like the slasher genre is iconic, and it'll always be iconic. Even still, I'll still just throw on random slashers that come out, contemporary ones. But I do like the idea that there's been kind of more psychological horror that has just made, I think, the genre more respectable. And then when it starts making money, which this article, which we'll dive into more, it kind of has like an exponential effect, like exponential compounding effect. It's making money. All right, we can get more, directors who like more talented directors. We can get more talented actors, and then we get more money, and it can become. I don't know. I don't know where it can go. I think we're at that point where it's like we're on the upward slope of where horror can go.
And a couple of things there, especially with regarding like the like how profitable so many horror movies have been and are becoming, and of course there are definitely plenty of flops, but at least like when you, just because we're in the summer right now, so we had Superman and Fantastic Four come out, so two huge superhero movies that just came out, and they got solid reviews, and the box office returns are okay, they're very middling, and both these films cost over $250 million each. So and on top of this, kind of a rule of thumb in Hollywood is the budget, it includes the production budget plus the marketing budget, which is usually about the same as the production. But so it's about, the studios probably spent about $500 million per film. So they need to make at least that just to break even. They need to make $500 million to break even.
Oh, that's so crazy.
I know, it's nuts. And so both these films are, they're doing well. They'll probably break even, make a slight profit. But if a movie, like struggles to make $500 million, it's considered a disappointment. Whereas a horror movie can cost $1 million, but then make $30 million. It's like, hey, we made 30 cents our money back. Like, and we can turn this into a series.
That's another thing too, is that horror, I think, unlike a lot of other like genres,
Mm.
at least to me, sequels are much more appealing. Where in other areas, sequels are like, I saw like the last Scream I didn't like, but I even wrote in my review like I'm gonna watch the next one.
Right.
Like, it's gonna come out and I'm still gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Like, will I go see it in theaters? I don't know. I don't think so. No, I probably won't. But I'm still gonna watch it. Where like other sequels, I'm just like, it totally depends what, but a lot of them don't have nearly as much appeal. I think that's really a horror and action thing.
Yeah.
I'm just not that into the action genre overall.
Right.
I think there are exceptions. I think John Wick is an exception to everything I just said in terms of sequel action and sequels. But I think those are few and far between. Where horror, it's like, oh, I can watch this pretty like not very popular, not very well known zombie threequel, like whatever, and I'm like, I can still enjoy this.
I think another thing too is that horror is a much more there are so much more variety in horror films, whereas like superhero movies, it's like I can count on one hand where I watched a superhero movie that really broke the mold, where I'm like, oh, you did something, you took the genre in a really weird, interesting direction.
Yeah.
The only one I can think of would be like Unbreakable by M. Night Shyamalan, where it's like the concept of the superhero is kind of flipped on its head, where it's like, that's really unique. But that was in the 90s.
Unbreakable. What even was that?
That's the one with Bruce Willis, where he's just this regular guy, but he finds he's got superpowers. He's got like enhanced strength and then
Shyamalan?
Yeah, that was M. Night Shyamalan. You remember that one? It was the one he did right after The Sixth Sense.
No, but I guess that's what you do. You have a horror banger that's extremely popular, and then you go make a superhero movie I've never heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but getting back to the variety of horror movies, it's like for people who don't want things too scary, it's like you have PG-13. There are plenty of PG-13 horror movies. For people who want more psychological horror movies, there's that. If you want comedy, I feel like horror is a much more a many tentacled monster of a genre, whereas superhero movies is sort of like, the person who they can fly and they can punch really hard, and then there's a sky beam at the end, and then they save the world, and then that sets up the sequel. It's just like and I say that as someone who generally likes superhero movies, but even I'm like, I've done this 30 times now, very little variety. It's
definitely one of those. And I think we also might be entering this territory where there's a lot more like dash horror, this is a romance dash horror. This is is there a superhero horror? Like, I'm sure there, like, it's become much more to where it's like, oh, it's the dark side of this, which can become tedious. And I think we're gonna, like, the next wave of like a big subgenre that we're right on the precipice of, and I already maybe 1 foot in the door, is AI. Like, that's just gonna be the next thing. Like, The Creator came out. I saw this really good AI movie called The Artifice Girl. Again, it's not made by AI, it's about AI. That was great, low budget movie. Like, really, really highly recommended. But that's like, it's like the next thing. Like, everything is going to be something about AI, and I'm sure we're gonna get plenty of horror AI. I mean, we already have Megan, which I actually liked. And actually, she's in this this article that we still haven't really started. But Megan 2.0, which I don't know the reception of that. I don't think it's very good. But the first Megan I thought was really cool. Like, I thought that was fun. And so before we get more into this article, we, like we said, we both love horror, I think, for somewhat similar reasons. I think correct me if I'm wrong, like, you grew up reading Lovecraft, and like, what was the appeal of that to you as a kid, right? Or were you older?
I got into Lovecraft when I was like 18 or 19. So like I was like
adult.
So I spent most of my teens as like a gore hound. I was really into like zombie movies and slasher movies, and then I was like, this is all cool and stuff, but I want horror that's a little weirder, a little more out there, and that's how I kind of stumbled into Lovecraft. But so like my taste in horror has evolved over the years and years. But like, so what about you? Were you always into horror movies as a kid, or did you kind of get into it later?
So I definitely can say, like, I was a very scared kid. Like I remember my friends, you know, I lived next door to my best friends.
Yeah.
It was like, I've talked about like they were they're two brothers, and then me and my brother. So like the four of us hanging out all the time, literally right next door.
Yeah.
And so like they would play, for instance, like Resident Evil 2 on N64. And it would scare the crap out of me. Like legitimately scare. And it wasn't like fun. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is fun. Like, no, I was like actually scared. I would like run across our lawn, full sprint at night, just so I wouldn't get got, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and like sleepovers, like group sleepovers, you know, people would put on scary movies, and I would be like legit scared. But I think part of that like evolved into it's fun. Yeah. Like it is more of that. Oh, like this is an enjoyable experience in the not in an unconventional way.
Yeah.
Where I love a great poignant drama, tearjerker. You know, I love that kind of stuff. I love just like great works of art, powerful movies. I love a good comedy. Of course, I mean, who doesn't? You know, a thriller, I still think is one of my favorite subgenres. Like there is like a good thriller actually might be my favorite type of movie, but horror, it is like it plays on. It's also one of those genres that's been parodied to death that it can play off of itself really well. Yeah. You might, when that door closes, there's going to be the killer or the creature or whatever on the other side of that door, and then there isn't, and then it's on the other side, or you know, you think that now at this point, you know, after 40-50 years of constant horror movies being made, you know, there's so it still feels fresh. Like it still feels like there's plenty of storylines, and you know, they've even made movies. I mean, what other type of movie have they made parodies of the movie genre itself? Like Scream and Cabin in the Woods. Yeah. I mean, maybe they have, but like the rules of horror and subverting those rules, like that's all really fun. Yeah. That's all like really fun stuff that I don't think you can get those sorts of communities and interests in other areas. So that was a long-winded way to answer your question. Like, I think it legitimately scared me as a kid, a lot of this stuff. And then it kind of evolved into, I don't know, a more fun, evocative experience.
Yeah, no, same here. And I was definitely like, I don't know exactly when the turning point was for me, but like horror scared the crap out of me as a kid, but I was always fascinated by it though too. Yeah. Like I remember like when I was a kid, almost every Friday, my mom would take my sister and I to this video rental place called Video 2000, and then I would usually get something like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or something, right? Yeah. But then whenever she was in line, I would wander over to the horror section, and it was all VHS at the time.
Yes, I love that.
And just seeing like cassettes from like the 80s, like slasher movies, and like there was like that painted style that they saw in a lot of, you know, like VHS covers, movie posters. And they're always like they gross, like they like, I was just so like fancy because like oftentimes they would be like, you know, a hot young woman and like maybe her shirt was kind of torn open a little bit, but there'd be like a giant and bloody knife behind her. So I was like, oh man, this is so forbidden, like I don't want to watch it, but I kind of do. And so that definitely planted the seeds, and that just kind of blew up when I became a teenager. That's
so funny because that's another thing too, is we could do an episode, and we should, and we'll tailor it to horror, but even for Reckless Musecast, I was thinking of just doing like favorite or most memorable like movie store jackets that you remember. Like, I don't mean like what are the best movie posters, because you can get like, I have movie posters in my house, you know, like from your childhood experience. What were like for me, Heavy Metal 2000 played a big part on my childhood. Like the big busty woman, like it's a bad movie. Heavy, the first one's much better, and even that one's not great. But like Heavy Metal 2000 played a huge part of my childhood. That's what I think of when I think. What's funny, your video store is called what? Movies?
It's called the VHS 2000.
I love it. It's like the most ironically, mine was called West Coast Video, even though I live on the East Coast. West, and obviously eventually Blockbuster, but I do remember West Coast Video was like my childhood movie rental store. And then Blockbuster, and then nothing. But yeah, so like I remember there's some movie, I can't even remember what it was, but it had like a skull with a snake going through the eye hole. And I don't, to this day, I don't remember what it was. We might have talked about it before, but I can't remember. But like that, yeah, like that would scare you. Or like Jack Frost or something, or
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or the horror one, not obviously the
goofy one with Batman. And it, what's his name? What's the first?
Is it
the first Batman?
Is it
actor?
Wait, the first Batman?
Yeah, the Tim Burton.
No, the Tim Burton one.
Why is his name escaping me?
I always forget his name.
Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton was in the comedy, big budget.
Was he in that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he played the guy.
I don't know why. Why did I think it was David Duchovny?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, like a very 90s.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing, dude, that used to scare me. The X-Files theme song.
Oh,
sci-fi horror, like that. And I remember that would come on around the time that if I was at my neighbor's house, my friend's house, that was kind of this time to go home. Like it was probably around 9-10 at night.
Yeah.
Maybe a little earlier. I can't remember exactly, but that was kind of like a signifier, like, oh shit, I need to get home. And now I'm scared because the X-Files theme song came on.
Sunday night, 9 p.m. Fox.
Right.
And I got to go outside in the dark. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
All right. So should we get into this article here?
Yeah.
So this is in Reuters. It came out in July 5th. It's studios bet on horror movies to reanimate cinemas, and it's by Don Chmielewski.
Something ridiculous in Polish.
Yeah. Vampires, zombies, and the Grim Reaper are killing it at the box office. At a time when superheroes, sequels, and reboots have grown stale among audiences, horror has emerged as an unlikely savior, entertainment industry veterans say. This year, scary movies account for 17% of the North American ticket purchases, up from 11% in 2024 and 4% a decade ago, according to ComScore data compiled exclusively for Reuters. Thanks to the box office performance of Sinners and Final Destination Bloodlines, the new installments of popular horror films hitting later this year, including The Conjuring, Last Rites, and Five Nights at Freddy's 2, cinema owners have reason to celebrate.
Have you seen Five Nights at Freddy's?
No, I haven't.
I
heard it's very cheesy. It's a PG-13, more kid-centered, and it's based on like a video game thing or something too. So it just didn't.
Gotcha.
But I do kind of want to watch it though, just because I think Jim Henson Studios created like the animatronic stuff. Yeah, I heard the practical like robotic stuff is pretty cool.
All right.
But I heard it's very forgettable, sort of cash cow or like cynical sort of cashing in on a popular thing. We have identified horror as really one of the primary film genres that we are targeting to grow, said Brand Gully, owner of the Springs Cinema and Tap House in Sandy Springs, Georgia. It can really fill a void when you need it. Producers, studio executives, and theater owners say horror has historically provided a safe outlet to cope with contemporary anxieties, and there's no lack of material to choose from. The aftershocks of a global pandemic, artificial intelligence, paranoia, the loss of control over one's body, and resurgence at racism. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, really.
But anyway, I'll continue. It's cathartic, it's emotional, and it comes with an ending, said film data analyst Stephen Follows, author of the Horror Movie Report, which offers detailed insights into the genre. Horror movies give space to process things that are harder to face in everyday life. I like that. That's interesting. Stephen King has a quote about that, where it's like horror movies are rehearsals for our own deaths. And I think that's actually a good way to describe at least part of the appeal of horror movies. Because every time you watch one, and you start screaming at the screen. You start saying, don't go in the house, don't go by yourself. Bring a knife, bring a weapon. What are you doing? Don't touch it. So they're sort of like, okay, if I'm going to die, at least I'm not going to die doing something stupid, like going into a haunted house by myself. I think there is something to that where it's like it makes death a little less scary. It's like you're experiencing it, I suppose.
I mean, I think Final Destination, right, they just mentioned the Final Destination, which I don't really like those movies, to be honest.
It didn't care for me either. Yeah,
but that is that where it's like there'll be that this will resurface on the internet every few years or few months. It'll be like the truck carrying a bunch of lumber, like logs, and all the cars are like on the other side of it, like not in the same lane. because we've all seen that, and it's like a whole generation raised on Final Destination. I guess that's true. I don't know. I don't know if people before 2003 or whenever that movie came out.
Well, I mean, there's something to that. So I mean, like, so I play guitar, and I've almost every guitar player known has this thing. So when you're like tightening the strings on your guitar, sometimes it'll tweak a little bit, like it'll make like dink, like almost like the metal, like it almost sounds like the metal's about to snap. I don't know why it does that. But almost every time I've done that with, like, when I'm jamming with friends, somebody goes, "Remember that scene in The Haunting? Have you seen The Haunting from like the early, I think late 90s? It's the PG-13 one with Owen Wilson and Catherine Zeta-Jones."
No.
There's a part in the movie where they're in this old, mansion, and then this girl, she's touching like a harp or something like that, like some old antiquated stringed instrument, and it snaps, and it has this like huge gouge in her, like on her head.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But like ever since that, like my friends go, "Have you seen that scene from The Haunting? Are you from that?" So like every once in a while, like something like that just penetrates the subconscious, like the psyche of a whole generation of people. So there is something to that, I think, of like, I mean, when Jaws came out, people were afraid to like even go in the bathtub. Like,
true.
The often low-budget productions allow for greater risk-taking than would be possible with high-cost, high-stakes productions like Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The creative freedom has attracted such acclaimed directors as Ryan Coogler, Jordan Peele, Danny Boyle, and Guillermo del Toro. That's another thing about the appeal of horror movies too, where it's more premise-based. It's, what does the monster look like? I got to see the movie to find out what it is, who's going to die and how are they going to die. And so, like, with that, you don't need a big budget to create that sort of suspense. And I have a quote here real quick. I'm sort of bring it up that I sent you. I just had it and I clicked away from it for some stupid reason. Okay, here we go. So this is from Roger Ebert's review of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. As all a horror film need promise is horror. The unspeakable, the terrifying, the merciless, the lurching, monstrous figure of destruction. It needs no stars, only basic production values, just the ability to promise horror. So that's such a great quote, and it's like that's why the Blair Witch Project blew up. That's why Paranormal Activity blew up, and they had budgets that were in the tens of thousands of dollars instead of the tens of millions of dollars. But it does require a lot of artistry. I'm sure we've seen some low-budget horror movies that are total garbage.
Oh, yeah. And there's like cheap, like I think a lot of I think a lot of horror can be cheap, like jump scares that are just unnecessary. I just watched something recently that Before Dawn, whatever it was. It came out this year. It's a time loop horror movie.
Okay.
So it's a cool concept. Time loop movies always have the potential to be really fun.
Yeah.
Palm Springs was really fun. This, not as much, but it's like these, the typical group of teens, or probably not teens, probably 20 somethings, or a mix, are in Pennsylvania, which is itself, that alone is just terrifying, but are in some welcome centers, off the beaten path, and as the creepy gas station attendant, and there's an hourglass that flips over, and they basically get killed over and over again by different creatures and whatnot, and there's a whole reason for it, et cetera, et cetera. And there's just like unnecessary jump scares in that, like deep into the movie, whereas you've already established what this is. There's enough horror here, just like run with it. And to me, that's just, you're not confident in what you created, so you have to throw some of this in so that people can say, "Oh, that was really scary." Did that part where it's like, no, there's a difference between startled and scared. Like being like startled is the cheapest form of horror, and
it's the easiest one to accomplish too.
Yeah, what I mean.
I mean, I remember the Woman in Black, the one with Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. But there was a scene in the movie where, and it's pretty early on, so the scares haven't really started coming yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if like the producers came in and were like, "Hey, can you have something jump out here?" And it happens multiple times. It is so fucking obnoxious. So like he's at this old house that's kind of isolated from it's out in the countryside, and he's there by himself, and it's in the day, so it's not super creepy. And then like he's looking out the window, and then all of a sudden, like I think like a crow jumps out of a cabinet or something, and it's oh okay, well whatever. I don't know why crow's doing inside, but whatever. And then he goes back to looking outside, and then like a cat jumps out from under the bed or something, and it's like okay, like you like
that's a scary movie. When the girl's in the garage, and it's like oh kid, like cat goes by, it's like oh kitty, you scared me, and like a horse goes by, it's like oh horsey, what are you doing? And that's in 1999 or whenever Scary Movie came out, right? So
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because like this came out like a solid 15 years after Scary Movie, and it's like you didn't learn your lesson, like
yeah, it's cheap, and it's one of those like once in a while, I guess it can be fine if it merits it, like if there's a reason for it, but a lot of them are just sprinkled in there because it's kind of like oh we gotta give people what they want.
Yeah, and yeah. Like one of the more obnoxious types of variations on the jump scare would be like when a character is walking around, like say like an office after hours, like the last one there, and they hear a noise and go, "Oh, is anybody here? Tommy, is that you? Jessica?" Like nobody's, and it's just dead silent. And then like, "Is anybody there?" And then all of a sudden, like somebody jumps out and it's like, "Oh, hi, it's me, Barbara. Yeah, it's here. I left my purse here." It's like somebody was calling. You could just be like, "Oh, hey, it's just me. I'm here."
Yeah.
Like,
he's gone through like the whole Rolodex of names, but like because he didn't say Barbara.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like I hate those types of scares. It's so contrived. It's just But anyway, back to the article here.
You want me to read some?
Yeah, go for it.
Give that rock and roll voice a break. By the way, I totally read ComScore as CumScore when I first read this article.
Filthy boy.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Horror movies are an accountant's dream, said Paul Garibidi, something long in Armenian, ComScore senior media analyst. If you're going to make a science fiction outer space extravaganza, you can't do that on the cheap. With horror films, a modest budget movie like Weapons can be scary as hell. I don't think that movie's out yet, right?
No, it's not. I don't think so.
At
least not as of this.
All right.
Not as of this.
And this article came out about a month ago, July 5th. Audiences are responding. Audiences are responding. Coogler's Sinners, an original story about Mississippi vampires starring Michael B. Jordan, was the year's third highest grossing movie in the U.S. and Canada, according to ComScore. And that is an excellent movie. I saw that in theaters, and it was fantastic. Yeah. Movie theaters are still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic, which broke the movie-going habit and increased viewing in the home. Mike DeLuca, co-chair of the Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, which released Sinners, said horror was a genre that manages to get people out of the house. The rising tide that lifts all boats, he said. We're trying to get people back in the habit of going to the theaters. Fear knows no geographical bounds. Half of all horror movies released by major U.S. distributors last year made 50% or more of the worldwide box office gross outside the U.S., according to London-based researcher Ampere analysis. That actually, when I read that does surprise me. I did not realize that.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, I know some cultures have I think I know. I guess it's called like Japan. I know, and South Korea, they make a lot of horror movies.
Yep,
really interesting. Some I don't like so much, but some that are fantastic.
Yeah.
Is Mexico big in horror? Like, because they do like Day of the Dead and everything, and they have like Santeria and all that stuff. I don't know if that carries over.
Not that I know of. I haven't heard of like any, sort of breakout hits or something where we're sort of like, oh yeah.
But are they popular there? I guess.
I don't know. I mean, if we're celebrating the dead.
Latin America. I don't know. I was surprised by that though. I didn't realize that. 50% a lot.
I don't. Maybe there's. I mean, fear is universal. And maybe that's something that just
Yeah.
sort of transcends cultural
Yeah.
barriers, language barriers.
The breakout international hit The Substance, for example, grossed over 77 million worldwide. With around 80% of that from outside the US. That's kind of crazy. Also, I love that movie too.
Mm.
Streamers also are similarly capitalizing on the appeal of the genre. AMC's post-apocalyptic horror drama series The Walking Dead became one of the most popular series when it was added to Netflix in 2023. Well, wait till you get a few seasons in.
Yeah.
Amassing 1.3 billion hours viewed, according to Netflix's engagement report. Director Guillermo del Toro's film adaptation of Mary Shelley's Gothic novel Frankenstein is set to debut in November. I am excited for that.
Yeah, I'll check it out. So it's funny because like no matter how popular horror movies will become, they'll still never be considered respectable. Like they've been around for like 100 years and they're still kind of like there's still like that stigma, which actually I'm still fine with. I mean, it's there's something like rebellious about horror movies, and like it's I think film critics are surprised when they encounter a genuinely well-written, well-crafted horror movie, not just like because I know Final Destination's Bloodlines got really good reviews, but I mean like that's a movie that doesn't take itself too seriously. So I think critics are just sort of like, hey, it's a fun time at the movies, but like when they watch when they see something like Hereditary, we're like, wow, what a genuinely suspenseful, unsettling horror film.
I think horror and comedy don't do as well because they can subvert a lot of social norms, and they can skewer and attack sacred cows or whatever you want, and whatever metaphor you want to make, right? I think that's what and I think the general movie reviewer is still, or not movie, like critic I should say, the general critic is still somewhat elitist, and a lot of the critics still come from major publications and are associated with the biz, which is more of the, and they want to be considered more of the high art, and the more of the high art and the like the winners, the Oscar winners, and the Academy, like the Academy Awards and Cannes and the whole circuit and all of that. And I think maybe that is changing somewhat. But I think a large portion of horror, or a substantive portion of horror, or excuse me, a substantial portion of horror is still considered lowbrow. But, and in this article, and I don't know if that's going to change, because that's what makes it so financially appealing.
Right.
Because you can take a movie that costs next to nothing, costs peanuts in terms of movie making. And you're going to get a bunch of teens going to the theaters to watch it, get out of the house with their friends. And there you have 4 to 6 tickets or whatever at a movie theater, even if they're fucking around during the show, during the movie, that stuff sells, and they're going to go see that because it's fun. They can yell at the screen. They can, they go on a date. Do they even go on dates anymore?
Probably not.
So maybe it's not that, but like have the girl you're on date with grab your hand or something because she's scared. Like that's there's still an appeal to that, which is worth the price of admission.
And there's something about like the rewatchability of horror movies, that I think is part of the continued attraction of horror movies. So I mean, so I live in LA, and so I see, there are a lot of like movie clubs. Most of the time, they're showing horror movies because there's something about the like watching, even a horror movie that you've seen 20 times, even if it's Friday the 13th Part 7 or whatever. Like watching a movie like that with a group of people is still so much more fun than watching, I don't know, some drama, a well-made drama from the 90s. It's just like, people like, there's like the cheese factor of a lot of old horror films that just works better in a theater setting. But whereas like, acclaimed Oscar-winning movies, they don't get shown as much with movie clubs and theaters that show cult classes. It's like, I think when you even say the term cult classic, like most people, the genre that pops their mind is a horror movie.
Yeah, that I'd agree with that.
No.
All right, back to the article. Horror films are ideally suited to watching in movie theaters where the environment heightens the experience. What you can't do at home is sit in a dark room with 100 other people, not on your phone, and jump, said Blumhouse CEO Jason Blum, producer of Halloween, Paranormal Activity, and other lucrative horror franchises. You can't really be scared when you watch a horror movie at home. Well, I don't think I agree with that. I think he's being a little biased there. But yeah, Blumhouse did. I don't know if they started it, but they definitely epitomize what we've been talking about this episode, which is inexpensive horror movies that make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And whether that's, what are Halloween, that must be the new ones, of course, right?
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity. I didn't realize, did they do the first Paranormal Activities? Because those things were, at least the first one, that was like, that was a craze.
Oh yeah,
that was a huge hit. I didn't realize they made that.
That was a Blumhouse one.
Yeah, interesting.
Dude, the profit margins on that are crazy. So the movie it cost $15,000 to make, and then it made 194 million.
Insane
at the box office.
That's so insane. I saw the second one, I think, in college in theaters. I can't remember exactly. But it was very fun. I saw a bunch of friends. Very, very, very fun experience.
Yeah.
All right.
Dude, I mean, like the Hereditary, I think for me was a very memorable theater going experience. It was a small crowd, but I just remember it was so unbelievable. Like to me, that's one of my all-time favorite movies. What was one of the most tense horror films I've ever seen. I remember like when the movie was done, like when the credits rolled, everybody let out like a collective. Like we all just like got off a roller coaster. It was crazy. Like we were also holding our breath the whole time. It was nuts.
Yeah, because that Hereditary kind of like keeps on going.
Yeah,
and that was pretty early in the like highbrow horror, so I don't think people really know what to expect. That was like 2017, 18.
I think so. Yeah, around that time. Yeah, that one I think was sort of like, oh, horror movies can be like incredibly well made.
Yeah.
Well crafted. Yeah. And obviously not the first, like it's not the first well-made horror movie, but like in terms of like elevating horror, where critics were like, we're also raving about it, and the word of mouth about that one was crazy too.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Big budget movies that the industry refers to as tent poles, such as Captain America: Brave New World or a Minecraft movie, remain the lifeblood of movie theaters. Over time, these blockbusters have elbowed out more moderately budgeted romantic comedies and dramas on movie screens. Against this backdrop, horror has been quietly gaining momentum. The genre broke the $1 billion box office barrier in the U.S. and Canada for the first time in 2017. ComScore reported, buoyed by the film adaptation of Stephen King's novel It and Jordan Peele's exploration of racial inequality in Get Out. Announcements of new horror films from U.S. producers have risen each year for the last 3 years, including in 2023, when the Hollywood strike significantly impacted production, according to, Ampere analysis.
Yeah.
The number of U.S. horror films that went into production last year was up 21% over 2023. Ampere.
That's interesting. Yeah, like horror movies are just like historically kind of recession proof. I mean, like, this goes all the way back to the Great Depression, like when like the Universal monsters first like hit the screen in the early 1930s. Like those are huge, massive hits. Like, in I was reading an article, like I think it was like 1931, which I think was like one of the worst years in the Depression. Was actually one of the best years for Universal Studios at that time. Like they were about to go, they were about to like declare bankruptcy, and then Frankenstein and Dracula saved it. But so I mean, like this is kind of an interesting trend that's been going on for decades.
Yeah, so it's liquor stores and horror movies. Those are the two businesses. Good to know.
Yeah, it is interesting that even during the Great Depression, ticket sales were astronomical, and you would think it'd be like people were cutting down on luxury expenses and stuff like that. But no, they flocked to movie theaters. It was an escape. So yeah.
All right. While more art house fare and even some tentpole superhero franchises have had mixed fortunes at the global box office in the wake of the pandemic, horror remains one of the key genres that audiences still make a point of seeing in the theaters, wrote researcher Alice Thorpe in a report for NPR's clients, which she shared with Reuters. The researcher's own consumer surveys revealed horror is the favorite genre among 2/3 of moviegoers ages 18 to 24. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Anytime a teenager graduates to wanting to take a date to the movies, horror gets popular really fast, said Warner Bros. DeLuca. It's a great film-going experience to take a date to because you get to huddle with each other and grasp and hoop and holler.
Have you ever had like a really memorable horror movie theater experience where like everybody was screaming at the same time and everybody was?
Yeah. The Ring 2, maybe.
Interesting.
I can't remember if it was 1 or 2.
Right.
And then The Ring really scared me. Like that was definitely one that really freaked me out. The faces of the girls at the beginning really freaked me out. And they're much. If you watch the Japanese version, actually, the American I think is much scarier.
Yeah, it is.
It's much more graphic, much more intense.
Yeah.
But which was surprising because I think some of my issues with some Japanese movies are that they're way too gory, way too gross. There must be a few that I've seen.
Yeah.
Anyway, other horror movies though. I mean, Paranormal Activity was really fun. Again, I can't remember which one exactly it was. I think it was 2. Might have been 1. I really don't remember. What about you?
Yeah, well, other than Hereditary, I can't think of too many. I think there have been only a handful of horror movies in theaters that I saw that I really enjoyed. Most of the ones were pretty mainstream, kind of lame, generic. Like, I mean, ones where I'd been to some where a handful of people were screaming, but like my friend and I, we'd seen so many horror movies, we were actually really bored. Like we're actually having like a casual conversation in the middle of the movie, like just because it's just like, I mean, we weren't being loud. It's just sort of like it was just so unengrossing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hereditary is definitely a standout.
I'm trying to think of any others. I mean, I just saw Sinners, and that was a great movie. Like that was really enjoyable. I guess I'm thinking more like growing up. No. I feel like a lot of my horror movie watching though was in my basement, of course, like the pod, like our show title. But like I feel like watching a horror movie in a suburban house basement is like very much is how I picture doing it, like with friends. Yeah. So that's probably most of my experiences. But I'll think it over and think if I can recall any others.
Yeah.
All right.
Want me to take over?
Yeah, sure.
Freak show. Horror has been a cinematic staple from its earliest days, when Thomas Edison filmed Frankenstein on his motion picture camera, the kinetograph, in 1910. The British Board of Film Classification introduced the H rating in 1932, officially designating the genre. But it didn't always get Hollywood's respect. In the first half of the 20th century, it was seen as a freak show, said Follows. Perceptions began to change with the critical and commercial success of films like Psycho, The Exorcist, and The Shining. Director Steven Spielberg ushered in the summer blockbuster in 1975 with Jaws, a reinvention of the classic monster movie. In recent years, horror movies have become part of the Oscar conversation. Peele collected an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay in 2018 for Get Out. Demi Moore received her first Oscar nomination earlier this year for her portrayal of an aging Hollywood star who will go to any lengths to stay beautiful in The Substance. Not every horror movie connects with audiences. Megan 2.0, a sequel to the 2022 low-budget film about a killer robotic doll that grossed $180 million worldwide, brought in a modest $10.2 million in the U.S. and Canada in its opening weekend, according to ComScore. Theater chains will have no shortage of movies to exhibit this summer. 7 films are slated to be released before Labor Day weekend, including Columbia Pictures' nostalgic reboot of the 1997 film I Know What You Did Last Summer, which reaches screens on July 18th, and Weapons, which opens on August 8th.
Oh, there you go. Opens tomorrow. All right.
Yeah. The best types of these movies are ones that elicit an audible and visceral reaction. Don't go in there, said Scream Gems President Ashley Brooks, who has worked on such films as Sony's upcoming I Know What You Did Last Summer, as well as A Quiet Place and Scream. You are either squirming or laughing or screaming and just really having fun with it.
I think so. A Quiet Place, that's a good example of like, I love that movie. I thought that was so interesting. So like such a different take on a common plot, which is, you know, alien forms. I think in that, what are they? Are they underground? And they come, or do they come from the sky? They come from the sky. They come from outer space. Yeah.
Yep.
And, but the whole sound aspect of it, total, like that is unlike anything I'd ever seen before. I loved it. I thought the second one also was really good. The third I saw that came out last year. It was okay.
Yeah.
I think I remember being like, this is okay. Also, you know the shtick, so it's tough to make 3. Like we were just saying, where a lot of horror movies, you can keep making sequels because, the killer's not actually dead and he's gonna go kill. And this, it's like, it's origin prequels can be kind of interesting, but then you know how this all works, and it's not nearly as interesting anymore. But anyway, that's a good example. Is A Quiet Place. Have you seen the original I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yeah. It was fine. I mean, you know, like it came out during like the 90s slasher boom after Scream.
Yeah.
So there's also like Urban Legends and The Faculty and
that to me is so late 90s. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer might be one of the most late 90s things that's ever happened.
Yeah.
It's like that and Friends.
Yeah.
Or like, dude, those just scream late 90s.
Right. No, totally. I mean, and then, you know, Jack Black was in I Know You Did Last Summer 2, or I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, or I'm Still Thinking About What You Did Last Summer, or whatever.
Remember Last Summer? Yeah. I do.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I mean, you can tell that they were just trying to capitalize on Scream. Like, let's get some attractive young people, So how do you feel about the overall state of the horror genre right now?
Well, this is one of those articles that kind of confirmed my suspicions, where I watch a lot of movies. Probably I watch in total, I probably watch around 150 movies a year, I think. And now on Letterboxd, I can actually see how many I watch a year. And I think it's about 150 and review that many. And so I therefore am like looking through movies a lot. And I noticed that there are a lot of horror movies now. And that wasn't something I could prove, right? Yeah. But it's kind of like, oh, that's like, I didn't know. And now that I'm seeing it, it's like, well, that's because since, what were the stats here? I mean, I think in the early 2010s, it was like 4%. And now it's 16 or so, like roughly those numbers right here. It's this year, scary movies account for 17%, where 4% a decade ago. So that means it's more than quadrupled.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like, so we're inching towards 1 every 5 movies is a horror movie.
Yeah.
Where I think not that long in our lifetimes, I feel like you were getting rom-coms, you were getting just a lot more pure comedies, which have started to come back a little bit, which is nice to see too. Where horror was such a smaller portion of, and I don't know if maybe horror made up more in the late 90s or in the 80s. I don't know. Because this said a decade ago, so it's a mid 2010s. That's kind of right during the Eggers, Ari Aster. That's right when those movies are coming out. Jordan Peele, like the highbrow horror. So I don't know, but like that is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of horror movies. I'll take chance. Another thing, before we wrap up, I will take chances on horror that I won't on some other movies. Like that's the thing too, where even if it's low budget, acting's not great, they can have more redeemable qualities where like you watch like a bad comedy or like just a bad drama. I'm kind of watching one right now. I'm going to finish tonight where I'm like, oh no, like, oh, I think this movie really sucks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean I don't watch some like, I've watched some bad action too. I've been watching some bad action movies recently. That movie Love Hurts with Kim Wei Kwang or whatever, like the guy who won the short round. That won the Oscar, gave that incredible speech. Man, that movie fucking sucks. That movie sucks. And that came out this year. So like bad action. Where horror, I've watched some not great horror this year. Wolfman wasn't great. Hard Eyes was okay, not great.
Yeah.
But they do have more redeemable qualities, I think, where you can still get an entertainment value from it. Where you watch a bad drama and it's like, oh my God, I have another 45 minutes of this.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it. Where at least in a horror, it's like, maybe these characters will die. Like,
that's a really good point about like, getting your money's worth from a horror film, because I like if you're watching what you think is going to be a good drama, it's like, oh, like I like the director or I like the actors, or I heard it's based on a really good book, or I read the book, and then when it doesn't live up to your standards, you're just like, well, like it's not just like, it's like disappointment. It's not just, oh, that wasn't very good. It's like you're like really let down. But you can watch a shitty horror movie and be like, objectively, it wasn't a very good movie, but in terms of a slasher movie, it hit, it checked all the boxes. It gave me
fun.
The cool kills.
Even if it's not great, it can be fun.
Yeah.
It can be like it can be somewhat enjoyable. Again, that doesn't mean like anyone who kills a bunch of teenagers in a movie is a good movie. Like, no, there's bad horror. There's I think like offensively bad horror too. I think that sometimes directors will take for granted that, oh, well, you just want to watch some people get sliced up, so I'm going to give this slop to you. Like, no, I criticize that just as much too.
Yep.
In general, though, I also think that people make horror movies, like there can be like a love to it, where they want to share scary stories that they grew up with, especially like urban legends. I think that's a lot of Jordan Peele, right? He would talk about how he would hear all these stories. Candyman is a good example of one, and that one actually is like that's like a black legend, right? Like that was actually, but he would talk about how he'd hear these stories, a lot of these folk stories that did come from white areas. A lot of it, a lot of fairy tales, a lot of stuff comes from Germany.
The funny thing about Candyman, though, so that was based on a short story or novella by Clive Barker, who's British. So that story actually originally took place in England, and then they transplanted it to they transplanted it to like I think like Chicago projects.
Oh, that wasn't originally a black story.
No. But like who adapted it, and Clive Barker actually liked it. Like he actually executive produced the film, so he approved it, and but he's like, yeah, I think this actually fits better in like a more like, especially in the early '90s, there were a lot of like sort of black themed movies, like Boys in the Hood and New Jack City and Menace to Society and stuff. So like movies that are commenting on race in America. So whoever wrote that adapted the movie was like, this fits better, I think, in what's going on in America with race. So but it's funny because like Candyman did become like its own urban. I never saw it until an adult, but I remember like it being in elementary school, like kids talking about Candyman, like it was a real thing.
Yeah. So I mean, we can wrap up. You want to wrap up, right?
Yeah, let's start wrapping up.
Like I said, you can have the last word, Joe. We want to focus this. We want to take it in a new direction, and to do that, I think we want to just get a fresh start. We'll do a mix of maybe deep dives into movies, cult classics, our hidden gems, our favorites. We'll carry over, I think, Shed Selections. We might give it a new name or whatever, but from the Reckless Musecast, we'll do, current movies too, surprising hits, whatever it is. We'll do books. We'll do other forms of media, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do a horror-centered pod here. We hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, and if you guys have recommendations, either for like movies or TV shows, or like any like interesting emerging trends, that involve horror, you let us know, and we'll explore it and excavate it and expose it and explore it. So comment, let us know what you guys think.
So contact us, and however, Twitter, Instagram. Usually, I think what we use the most of.
Yep.
Comment on the YouTube video. We're going to put this on Spotify and Apple. Is that the plan?
Yep.
Apple, Spotify, comment, whatever, share with friends. We'll still have the Patreon we'll update that. Of course, like Joe said, we love listener feedback. If you have any topics you want us to explore, questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, let us know.
Yeah. So I guess stay spooky. I'm sure we'll come up with this.
We used to have a sign up. It really makes sense. Don't go in the basement. Don't go in the basement because we're down there making a mess.
Exactly. All right, everyone. Bye.
Hasta la vista.